Hello, I'm Sandra Murray. Welcome to Arizona Mountain Gardening. We're here at the White Mountain Community Garden in the heart of Show Low, Arizona. This episode we'll learn some strategies to extend the garden season, some points on trimming your trees, and also some great ideas for Christmas gift giving. So, thanks for joining us, and let's have a great show. So one of our projects this year was to experiment with extending the garden season. So right behind us here is our greens area. And we grew greens there for, well, really for the whole season, right, Vicki?
We did, yes. And we're growing greens that are cold season greens, like a lot of mustard plants. What else? Chards.
Yeah. Kale.
Spinach is a cold season plant or green. So radishes, just heard from the back, radishes.
Yeah, radishes.
Okay, so anyhow, this is what we're going to show you what we have so far in the middle of November. And we're already harvesting from these rows of greens.
Yeah, so some of it was again from plantings late in the summer in August, and then our last planting was about the middle of September, and those seeds are germinating just fine. So
we have these rows covered with agribon to protect the greens from any kind of frost. And actually, the agribon will protect the plants through the winter,
yes,
even when it snows.
Yeah. So we have the agribon weighted down with sandbags. What's really important, everybody knows how windy it gets up here, and we don't want our agribon to take off.
It's starting to blow away already.
Yeah.
There's 2 layers here, so roll them together will be.
Oh, we have 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, these look great.
Yeah.
We're also monitoring temperatures because we certainly don't want the ground to freeze. No danger of it right now because it's still quite mild, but we do use just a simple meat thermometer, and right now the temperature is 52 degrees. So that's awesome, and that's one of the things that agribon does too, is keep the heat very low at soil level. Uncovering it during a sunny day like today also has a lot of benefits.
Okay.
Right, the plants like the sun, helps warm up the soil, and again, we'd want to cover those plants up by about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So here at our Extending the Garden season rows, our goal is to have some fresh vegetables to harvest during the winter. So it's really about a winter harvest garden. So you need to pay attention to the time that you would plant, so that the plants are at about 75% of maturity before the so-called Persephone Period begins. And Persephone Period really relates to Greek mythology. But what it stands for is that the hours of the day are going to be less than 10 hours a day. And so here in Show Low this year, the Persephone Period begins December 3rd and ends January 8th. And during that time, really all plant growth will cease. So as you can see, a lot of our little plants, they'll be able to be harvested at a baby stage. So again, when planting your garden, think about planting in the fall, even late summer, with an eye to extending your growth of your plants to have something to harvest here, November, December, and perhaps even beyond.
So we're here in the seed-saving garden, and I'm going to show you some carrots. We're leaving the carrots in the ground because the seeds are actually biannual. So we grew them this year. Next year they'll grow a shoot with the seeds. I've never harvested carrot seeds before, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But anyhow, So we're going to just leave them in here and cover them with a mulch of pine needles. So to overwinter them and let them just do their thing over the winter. And the controversy is that pine needles, you're not supposed to use them, but by the time they reach this state, they're not so as acidic as they are when they're green, right?
Right, and they're very plentiful up here. And again, what we're trying to do is give the carrots a little protection from really freezing temperatures.
We're using our resources up here.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, so what we're going to do is just put the pine needles over the carrots and then cover the whole thing with Agribon to protect the carrots.
Right. And again, when it snows, you want a little extra protection for those carrots because, again, we're in the seed garden, but at home you could be doing this in your own garden. If gift giving is part of your holiday traditions, we have some great ideas, gifts from the garden and gifts for the gardener. One thing I'm particularly interested in is drying herbs, and so I've put together a little package here. So we have little containers, and parsley in one, thyme in another, and then sage, one of my favorites. And so I'm going to fill this jar up, and then we'll go ahead and label it. I've kept the leaves whole because I think they look kind of cool, and then the gift recipient can decide how much they want to use and kind of crush it as they go. But at any rate, you could crush it. That's a nice option too. And it's like super fragrant. So it's one great thing about drying herbs when they're at their peak in the garden is you can really enjoy them at this time of year. So just put a few more in there. Put our little lid. These containers, throughout the year, I kind of keep my eye out for things as I'm out and about. And so you can find some really great things that you may be able to use for gifts in the future, and they're quite economical. So always be on the lookout for items that may help you put together a pretty cool gift. So just simple little labels. So I've put the one parsley on there, and then we have thyme, and now we need our sage. So we'll just write up a little label. Oh, looks like I've double labeled it. So we'll fix that. So there's the sage, that's parsley. So we'll put that together. And there we go. So in this little box, a little Christmas themed box, again, great time to pick these things up is after the Christmas season. And I've put a few little paper shreds in there. And then you just simply put your little herbs in, and it makes a cute little gift. So that's one simple and easy thing. And as you know, at the garden, we like to do a lot of food preservation. Dehydration would make a great gift too, but I like to do a lot of preserving. So here's some jam that I made, and you can make it look extra festive by putting it in a little bowl, and even with a little spoon that you can affix there. You could put like a nice little gift bag, or even just simply like that. Great little hostess gift too. The other thing that I found on my kind of being out and about is a cute little garlic container. And believe it or not, this was picked up at a dollar store. So dollar stores, thrift stores, great places for gifts. And again, just put your garlic in there from your garden, and that's a neat little gift. Tie it with some ribbon, put it in a gift bag. You could include other little items with it too, but a nice little gift. Here we have some tomatoes that are canned. Again, these are heirloom tomatoes from the garden high tunnel. And then you could put it in with some pasta. There's your little tomatoes. And again, you could use some of your herbs and stick them in here as a cool little gift. And if you have a favorite pasta recipe, I would tuck that in too. Or maybe even a little bit of cheese. And so, wonderful Christmas gift or a hostess gift for a great friend. We also have some great ideas for a gardener gift. So again, often you can find some pretty cool boxes, and so if you see it, pick it up. You never know when it might come in handy. And again, it's a very deep box here. So gardeners, what do we love? Well, we love books. This is a really popular one, all new square foot gardening book. A lot of people do these kinds of gardens right at the community garden and get a lot of food in a small space. We also have aprons at the garden. I dig dirt, so that's a nice little gift to tuck in there. And so, whoops, fold that up. Gloves, that's important. You want to keep your hands from getting dirty or stung by a pest. All gardeners should keep a log of what they're planting, how their seed did. So again, a little gift to stick in that box. Cute little garden pencil and a couple garden tools. So the sky's the limit on what you would include in there. You could also include a little gift card to a local nursery or other store where they may be able to get some plants to get started, or some seeds that you've saved too. So there we are. That's a nice little gift for your favorite gardener. Another great idea for the gardener, a mug. A couple of different examples here. Again, found in stores. They were on sale. Here we are, we've stick a pair of gloves in there, a seed pack that we've saved some seeds from the community garden, a tea bag, gardener can enjoy a cup of tea while they're dreaming of next year's garden, and also a little tag. There you are, it's a gift in a mug. Here's a great idea for wrapping up your gifts. So in this pot we will put, again, it's just a basic clay pot, gloves, and a gift card. The gardener can pick out what they would like. Here's the lid, and you wrap it up. Great thing about this is you can put in this pot whatever you would like, and they're very inexpensive. This whole pot under $3, and then you can just decorate it how you would like right on the top there. So there's one idea. These clay pots are really versatile. This one we're going to use as a way to contain our gift. So here we have some composted amended soil. Put that right there in your pot. Some seeds to get your gardener friends started. Again, we've saved these seeds at the community garden. And just put those in there. And a pair of gloves. Now put our lid on and wrap it up whatever kind of ribbon you like. Burlap would look really neat too. Again, this is a perfect gift for really any time of year. So now the gardener has a pot, the soil, and the seeds to get started. And for this season, we'll finish it off with a little sprig of rosemary. Right now, we're close to Christmas, so we're talking a lot about Christmas gifts, but actually all these ideas are perfect for any time of year. A birthday, a housewarming present, or just a way to say thank you.
Coffee grounds, this is what I do with my coffee grounds now. Adding them to a composter that I made, which everything will break down and feed the garden around it, feed all of the vegetables around it. Now I have like a number of cold hardy vegetables in here, a lot of like mizuna, which is a mustard green, and I have red mustard. I have chard growing over here, and a Chinese cabbage, some bok choy. So everything's just, I planted these sometime in October. it's getting cooler at night now, so I do cover them so that the soil will continue to be warm. To cover, I'll use these hoops to cover with plastic to keep the plants warm, but also at night I'll cover everything. I'll cover everything with Agribon. So everything will be toasty and warm during the day. I'll take the Agribon out, probably leave the plastic on. It depends how cold it is. But all of these vegetables in here are cold hardy vegetables, like Mizuno, which is a mustard green, red mustard, Chinese cabbage, chard. These are all vegetables that grow really well in cold weather. Okay, now this is a cold frame for home gardeners. And so all it is it's a box that's angled to get to the sun. The top is covered with plastic. I put some chicken wire in there to keep the pine needles out. So I have a couple of volunteers in here, but what I'll do is the soil is just resting, and I will plant probably in January because nothing's happening during Persephone days. So here's another raised bed which faces south, so it's getting a lot of sun in the winter. And I have lettuces growing in here. I have some onions left over, and this is actually where I planted garlic for next year. And it's been so warm that it's starting to come up, but it'll be fine. And so I covered this also during the at night to keep the soil warm.
Hello everyone, my name is Steve Campbell. I work for the University of Arizona Cooperative Extension. I've been in the White Mountains for 27 years now, working on forestry and community forestry. Today we're going to talk about pruning. We might want to start with what we call the bark ridge. This ridge right here is present on most trees when a new limb grows, and it basically forms the branch protection zone. So when we cut a branch, we cut outside of that so that the tree doesn't get foreign bodies such as bacteria, mold, and what have you into it, and also has a good place to start for healing the wound that we leave behind when we prune. And as we look at this tree here, we have what we call suckers coming out in places. Those are branches that they're not really controlled by the tree's hormonal system very well. And so we, as just a matter of standard, we take these off routinely, and we're trying to keep our scaffold, which is what we call all the branches that come out at the top, at about shoulder to head height. If you're in a lawn system and you're going to have to mow under a tree, you may want it a little higher, because especially if you've got a brim on a hat, you might not see that branch until your forehead hits it. So that being said, let's look at the equipment that we use. And if this is probably the most important tool that we have. It's a very well built. It's called a Corona, and it can last you a lifetime. The key element is this blade right here needs to be as sharp as a kitchen knife. And we have to keep this nut right here at the right tension so that the blade and the hook come across each other in a way that cuts without squashing. And that's about all we have to do with these particular pieces of tools. Most pruning, probably 80%, if you start when you first plant the tree, can be done with this tool right here. The next thing we do is we just move up a little bit to a larger bypass. We call it bypass because the blade bypasses the hook. Pruner. There's several different companies make these, and they're all available at your local stores that we have on the mountain for lawn and garden. The key thing again is keeping it sharp, a little lubrication, and then using it properly. And if we're going to cut off a limb, we do not want to leave a stub, period, because the tree can't heal over a stub. So one of the key elements then is when we decide what branch we're going to take off, we put the cutting edge next to the tree, and that's what we want to leave behind. No stub, a nice clean cut, and the cleaner the cut, the easier it is for the tree to heal that wound. Now as we look at this tree, again we're going to try to bring it up to this height here. We have a vertical branch over here that's actually working around the tree and up through. We call those a bull limb, and if you'll notice, it's only had a couple of years of growth, but it's already well up inside the tree. This type of growth on a fruit tree will never produce, and it's a weakening aspect to a landscape tree, because you want to keep this crotch angle at 45 degrees, no less than 30, no more than 60. That gives you the maximum support for that particular branch. Now as we look at this branch, and I keep touching it here, it tends to kind of roll in here and up into this other branch, and so we need to clean that up a little bit. So there's two cuts that I'm going to make here. I'm going to take out this branch right here that's just going to grow across. That gives me some room to work on that. I'm also going to take out the ones down here and this one here. And what we're doing here is leaving this branch behind, but taking out some of the competition with other branches. Might as well, while we're at it, take this one off because it's just ill-formed and not structurally sound. So that takes care of how we clean up a branch that's not competing properly or is kind of messy. And then the rest of the cuts are pretty quick around this tree. And because we're taking this out, I'm just taking it out in pieces. Now here's where our saw comes in. We've used the little clippers. This saw is a razor tooth saw. It's the only kind we're ever going to use. A lot of people like to use a bow saw. The teeth on a bow saw are real close together. They don't cut a wide gap in the tree, and then your blade starts to stick. We call that cut the kerf line. So we want to make a wide kerf so that the saw doesn't stick. Now what we're going to do here is pull this out where I can get the saw in. Now get real careful down here at the bottom. We don't want to pull the branch out and pull a piece of bark down the side of the trunk, okay? So, there it is. Okay, here we have another example of a tree that was planted and never pruned. So we have low scaffold limbs which are interfering with the sidewalk, interfering with any work that's done around the tree. Bigger problem here, this is what we call the central leader of the tree. At some time in the past, a sucker moved off the side of this tree, grew vertically, and actually outstripped the height of the central leader. When it does that, it assumes control of the tree, and what we have now is growth appearing in between here. These will grow together. This is an included bark area here, so this is a weak point where this tree will fail at some point, either in a heavy windstorm or a heavy snow load. So again, it should have been raised to this height. All of this should have been gone, and now we're looking at a couple of problems, because when we prune it, we have to take so much wood off that we overbalance the top of the tree with the roots, and growth is not as regulated. Also, we open up a lot of possibilities for that type of treatment to stress the tree and shock it and perhaps lead to some decline.
Thanks for joining us today. Those were some great tips on pruning your trees that Steve Campbell shared with us. We want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays from all of us here at the White Mountain Community Garden. We'll be back in 2018 with other great tips and ideas on how to grow your garden.